Our today's topic is Jiva or individual living soul. Saying the Buddhi means intellect, you can tell, or the determinative faculty when gets together with the five organs of perception that constitutes a unit, and it is called Vijnanamaya Kosha. So what is Vijnanamaya Kosha? Vijnanamaya Kosha means Buddhi or determinating faculty plus Pancha Jnanendriya, five organs of perception. And what is Vijnanamaya Kosha? We will discuss later classes, though we have discussed earlier also in our definition of Vedanta series. Vijnanamaya Kosha. Kosha means sheath. Vijnanamaya Kosha or means sheath, abounding in intelligence. Pure consciousness limited by the upadhi or conditioning of this sheath appears as a phenomenal being or individualized soul called the Jiva. Clear? Once again I am telling. Pure consciousness limited by upadhi of this sheath of this Vijnanamaya Kosha appears as a phenomenal being or individualized soul, and that individualized, that apparent, illusory, individualized soul is called Jiva. On account of this limitation, the Jiva forgets its true nature of infinity and blessedness and feels that it is an agent or doer as enjoyer or experiencer of happiness and misery. Bound by the law of karma and subject to transmigration or samsara, it assumes a higher or lower body on this earth or on another plane. It may be stated here now that there are two other Vedanti theories regarding the Jiva. I'm again and again telling, if anyone wants to study Vedanta in depth, please go to definition of Vedanta series, where each topic has been taken up in a detail minute detail. There I have discussed all other Vedanta matam. Here we are taking Vedanta in a nutshell. So there are two matam. One is Pratibimbavada, another is Avashavada. So according to one of them, pure consciousness appears to be reflected in and not limited by the Vijnanamaya Kosha. The reflection is the Jiva. Reflection assumes the characteristics of the medium in which an object is reflected. In this way, the reflection of the sun in water appears to be still or moving according to the condition of the water. Likewise, consciousness reflected in the Vijnanamaya Kosha becomes endowed with the characteristics of Buddhi. Clear? If the water is crystal clear, the sun is crystal clear. If the water is very slushy, the reflection is little dirty. If the water is very wavy, we can't see the reflection in a proper way. See, sun gets reflected in any medium. But suppose it's a glass, plain glass, sun gets reflected. You know, some glasses are available. इसको घिसा हुआ शीशा, you know, rough glass. There also sun is reflected, but you know how it is. And if there is a mirror, sun gets reflected as if it's real. Likewise, when our buddhi vritti, our sanskara, our everything else is very pure, the pure consciousness gets reflected clearly. If our buddhi is not purified, if it is turbulent with the cyclone of transmigration or samsara, when there is a lot of attachment, a lot of impurities in the intellect, there also pure consciousness gets reflected, but we don't get the result. That is why the variation between man to man, when each and every man or woman is divine within, everywhere the pure consciousness gets reflected, then why there is differences between one man to another man? Because of the reflecting medium. Because of the reflecting medium. Clear? According to the third theory, the Jiva is like a being seen in a dream. The whole universe, all Jivas are like a dream. Okay. Brahman or pure consciousness under the influence of Maya dreams as it were that it has become a man, a woman, an animal, or an inanimate object. All three theories regarding the nature of the Jiva stated right now, I told you, agree that Brahman appears as Jiva on account of Maya. So substratum is required. Substratum is required. See that Rajjus Sarpa Brahm, the fear for snake which appears on the rope on the condition of half light and half darkness. But in the air, the snake is not appeared. On the rope, snake was appeared. So, for appearance, for Maya, Maya is Brahmasraya. It's totally dependent on Brahman or pure consciousness. Individually, Maya has no power. It appears as very powerful because Brahman or pure consciousness is there. The rope is there, that is why snake has been appeared. And it is not Sat. Sat means which is always there, which never gets negated. But whenever we come with the light and we see, oh, we mistakenly granted it as a snake, actually it is rope. So Maya is not Sat. Maya is not Asat also. Maya is not Asat also. Asat means like Kha Pushpam, Akasha Kusum, like the flower in the sky, or Shashastringa, the horn of a rabbit, or Bandhaputra, the child of a barren woman, which is not possible. So Maya is not like that. Because we see it, we feel it, we touch it, we smell it, we hear it. So, and we taste it also. But basically it is unreal. But we see, hear, taste, smell, touch. That is why a new terminology came that it is mithya. It is mithya. That is Maya. And when Maya gets negated, vicharena tu nivartate. When we start discrimination, when we start knowing the intrinsic nature of Maya, then Maya gets disappeared and only pure consciousness remains. Like when we start peeling off the onion, peeling off, peeling off, peeling off, peeling off, peeling off, peeling off. There is nothing. Likewise, when we unfold Maya, start unfolding Maya, at the end, there is only pure consciousness. That is the nature of the Maya. The Jiva hood of the infinite Atma is due to the upadhi or conditioning of the Vijnanamaya kosha. It is apparent but not real. It is apparent but not real. The characteristics of birth and death, disease and decay, happiness and unhappiness ascribed to the Jiva are unreal from the standpoint of Brahman. But from the standpoint of Maya, everything is needed. Everything is real. Everything is truth. So that is the factor. You have to know what standpoint it is. So the thing is, the individual soul, after the attainment of knowledge, realize that it is the same as Brahman. Brahmaveda, Brahmaiva bhavati. The knower of truth or the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman or knows it is Brahman alone. The mind or the manas and the organs of perception together constitute a unit known as Manomaya Kosha. So intellect and Jnanendriya, Buddhi and Jnanendriya makes Vijnanamaya Kosha. Now mind or Mana plus Jnanendriya or perception, same organs of perception, together creates Manomaya Kosha or sheath of the mind. The self or Atma identified with it assumes the characteristics of the mind and experiences a diversity of the names and forms. The organs of action are the tongue. Tongue means organ of speech. The hand, the feet, and the organs of evacuation and generation. They are produced from the Rajasic part of the subtle elements. Clear? So, Jnanendriya came out from the sattvic part. Now, Karmendriya has come out from the Rajasic part of five subtle elements. Okay? The vital force is collectively, vital force or prana, pancha prana, is collectively known as prana only. What are those pancha prana? Like prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. In English, it will be gravitation, attraction, repulsion, and the life breath are different manifestations. As at the time of cosmic dissolution, the five elements of matter resolve back into Akash. So, likewise, all forces go back to prana. In the state of involution or non-manifestation, Akasha and prana remain in an undifferentiated state, merged in Prakriti or nature. At the time of next evolution, prana acting upon Akasha, which is Akasha, and manifests step by step, step by step. The different elements and the gross and subtle objects. Clear? Prana manifesting itself in the individual jiva is called by five names according to its different functions. Okay. Five pranas together with the five organs of action constitute a unit known as pranamaya kosha. So five pranas together with pancha karmendriya or five organs of action constitute a unit known as pranamaya kosha or sheath of vital force. When the soul is identified with this sheath, it manifests its active nature, hunger, activities, because the sheath itself is made of the rajasic part of the subtle element. Rajasic means where is activity, where there is restlessness. Intelligence or knowledge, will and activity are the characteristics of the jiva or living being. The Vijnanamaya kosha or sheath of intelligence is endowed with the power of knowledge. The Manomaya Kosha or sheath of the mind is endowed with the will through which an action is performed. But action is not possible without the vital force, without the prana, which is the characteristics of the pranamaya kosha. Atma or pure consciousness, limited by the upadhis of these three sheaths, is endowed with knowledge, will, and activity. This division is made according to the respective characteristics of the sheaths. These three sheaths together constitute the subtle body, which after death accompanies the soul in its transmigration. So what is called Jiva, the Sukshma Sharir or Jiva, that Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha, the vital air force sheath, the mental sheath, and the intellectual sheath together constitute a subtle body or Sukshma Sharira. And that Sukshma Sharira only travels body to body, one plane to another plane, earth to heaven, heaven to hell. According to Vedic scripture, 14 loka, 14 planes are there. As in the case of Maya or ignorance, so one question came few days back. So all those things, that subtle body, prana, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, are the manifestation of Maya. And Maya is nothing but the ignorance. So in that sense, Jiva means pure consciousness plus ignorance. Clear? So Jetli ji asked me that question. I'm very happy. And I replied him and told him, please wait for the next classes. You will be answered in detail. Okay. So as in the case of Maya or ignorance, the subtle body may also be viewed either collectively or individually. The collective subtle body, which includes all subtle bodies, is like a wood. The individual subtle bodies are like individual trees that constitute the wood or jungle. Consciousness associated with the collective subtle body is called by such epithets as Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma, and sometimes prana. So once again I am telling, consciousness associated with the collective subtle bodies is called as Hiranyagarbha. So Hiranyagarbha means Chaitanya plus total Sukshma Sharira is called Hiranyagarbha. Sometimes this Hiranyagarbha is called as Sutratma. Sometimes it is also called as Prana also. All these Sanskrit terminologies have special meanings. Though their general significance may be expressed by the terms cosmic soul, by the term cosmic soul. Sutratma is that which pervades the universe like the thread running through the flowers in a garland. In yesterday's evening class, I talked about it in Judaite Chai. Hiranyagarbha, Judaite Chai, yesterday we covered 19th sloka of Bhajagovindam, 1-9. So you can check. Hiranyagarbha or the golden egg. Hiranyagarbha means golden egg, the translation, is the first manifestation of Brahman in which the future living beings remain in seed form. Clear? And prana is that which is endowed with the power of activity. Other epithets of the cosmic soul are Prajapati and Brahmaji, not Brahman. Brahmaji, like Swamiji, Ramji, Shyamji. Likewise, Brahmaji is the creator. Clear? So the cosmic soul is immanent in the universe. It identifies itself with the 5 subtle elements and is endowed with the powers of knowledge, will, and activity. The collective subtle body, which consists of the Vijnanamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Pranamaya Kosha, and through which the cosmic soul functions, is finer than the gross universe. It is like our dream state. As the waking state merge in the dream state, so likewise the gross universe at the time of involution merges in the collective subtle body. प्रलय के समय सारे के सारे चीज, सारे के सारे सूक्ष्म शरीर समष्टि सूक्ष्म शरीर में विलीन हो जाता है. Consciousness limited by the individual subtle body is known as Taijasa. Consciousness limited by the individual subtle body is known as Taijasa. or the effulgent soul on account of its being associated with the effulgent inner organ. The inner organ is called effulgent because its experiences consist of ideas as proposed to gross object which are experienced by the organs of perception. Clear? The individual subtle body, which also consists of three koshas, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnanamaya, like the collective subtle body, and through which the individual soul functions, is finer than the individual gross body. Of course, subtle is finer than the gross. So it corresponds to the dream state, which consists of the impressions of the waking state. At the time of dreaming, the gross body remains inactive and the subtle body functions. Clear? At the time of dreaming, the gross body remains inactive and the subtle body functions. The collective subtle body is, in essence, identical with the individual subtle bodies which constitute it. The difference being in the mode of observing them. Likewise, the consciousness associated with the upadhi or conditioning of the collective subtle body known as the cosmic soul is, in a sense, identical with the consciousness associated with the upadhi of the individual subtle body known as the individual soul. The illustration of the jungle and the trees and the akasha associated with them has already we have discussed. All through the relative universe, the microcosm and the macrocosm run parallel to each other, whether in respect to gross and subtle object or to the consciousness associated with them. So according to the Vedanta philosophy, the microcosm and the macrocosm are in essence identical. Hari Om Tat Sat.